Hey, welcome back, friends. This is Podcasting 101. This is part 2 of choosing your equipment. Part 1 was determining your approach, and part 2 is choosing your gear. So we're going to dive into entry-level equipment for this segment. And we'll dive into mid-level equipment in the next segment, and then the high-level gear in the third installment for this step. Thanks for being here with us, and I hope you're finding that these videos are helpful and beneficial and are bringing value to you as you're starting to launch your new podcast. All right, so what we're going to touch on in this video is going to be an introduction to podcast recording equipment. We're going to talk about microphones. We're going to talk about headphones. We're going to talk about recorders and DAWs, or digital audio workstations, and then we're going to kind of wrap it all up. Introduction to podcast recording equipment. Podcasting has become an increasingly popular way of sharing ideas and stories with the world. Recording equipment is essential for creating a quality podcast. Choosing the right equipment for your budget is key for creating a successful podcast. This presentation will discuss entry-level budget podcast recording equipment, including a few examples of microphones, headphones, and recorders. These are just a few of what the market has to offer. Some I have experience with, some I do not. Keep in mind that the old adage is mostly true: you get what you pay for, as well as if it seems to be too good to be true, it probably is. So let's dive into microphones. A microphone, like this one, is the most important piece of equipment for podcasting. It's used to capture the sound of your voice and any other audio or sounds that you may want to include. Entry-level budget microphones are typically condenser microphones, which are good for recording vocals and instruments. Examples of entry-level budget microphones would include the Audio-Technica AT2020, which is a USB mic, the Shure SM58, which is an XLR microphone. Some other options you might consider are the Blue Yeti, which is I have an example of right here. This is the blockout model. This is a great microphone for under $100. Plugs in via USB, has an output for your headphones, level controls, mute, mic control on the front. It's typically marketed for gaming, but you can use it for podcasting as well. Great microphone for the price point. Another option might be the Rode Pod Mic, which is this guy right here. This is, if you can see, this port is an XLR microphone. Pretty much standard for most instruments and microphones that you might see on stage. This microphone here, the SM7B, is also an XLR microphone. So when you're buying your mic, you need to be aware of what type of microphone connector that it has and what type of system you're doing. If you're going to do a recorder, or if you're going USB direct into your computer, then you want like a USB situation, which makes it a little simpler. If you're doing an interface and you've got multiple inputs and it's an XLR interface, then you're going to want to get something like this. All these options are under $100, and depending on your format, you may need to buy more than one. All right, so let's talk headphones. Headphones are an essential piece of equipment for podcasting. They allow you to hear what you are recording and make adjustments as needed. Entry-level budget headphones are typically a closed-back headphone, which are good for isolating sound and blocking out external noise. Examples of an entry-level budget headphone include the Sennheiser HD280 Pros, which is what I'm wearing now. Joe Rogan uses these. These are fantastic headphones that cost under $100. You don't need to spend $3,000 on the super high-end headphones. You can if you want to, but these work. They're durable. They sound great. I've had these pair for probably 15 years. Yeah, no joke, probably about 15 years. And they work great. And if you take good care of them, they'll last for a long time. Another set would be the Audio-Technica ATH MX40X, not to be confused with the 50X, which is a little pricier. Other options to consider include the Sony MDR 7506s, the Beats EP, which I haven't used but I've heard good things, as well as the JBL Tune 500s. Each of these options is under $100. Additionally, like with the mics, depending on your format, you may need more than one pair. Now, I'm going to leave links in the description below for all of these different options that I have mentioned, along with their price points, so that you can see what might fit in your budget. Let's talk recorders and or audio interfaces. A recorder is necessary for capturing audio for your podcast. It's used to record your voice and any other audio you may want to include. Entry-level recorders are typically digital recorders that are good for recording multiple tracks at once. Examples of an entry-level budget recorder include like the Zoom H4n and the Tascam DR05. Both of these recorders are great for recording audio. They're affordable options for those on a budget. However, there are limitations with the tracks and inputs if you are considering more than one person recording. The benefit of going the audio interface route is that you can eliminate the step of importing the recorded files and record directly to the computer using your DAW. They usually have multiple inputs as well, so if you're considering two people being recorded at the same time, better option. You can isolate those signals and mix them appropriately. A couple of examples are the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, which is a USB interface, allows you to have two inputs, two headphone outputs, and the M Audio M-Track Duo, which is a similar configuration. I actually own the Scarlett 2i2 and I've used it numerous times. It's small, it's compact, it's easy to set up, plug into the laptop, set up the mics, and you're good to go. This is an item you might want to consider spending a little more on to get more features, to get more inputs, to have the multi-track options, as it will give you the most bang for your buck, a greater cost to value ratio at the next level. All right, I mentioned DAW, and you might be scratching your head going, what is that? Digital Audio Workstation is what DAW stands for, or AKA recording software. This is the software and editing component of your podcast workflow. There are a number of different audio recording software tools ranging in the full spectrum of features, plugins, and pricing. Audacity has the primary features that you need, and the best part about that is it's a free software tool. You can download it for free, both on Windows and on Mac. PreSonus Studio One Artist, which runs $99, or Sphere, which is a subscription model at $15 a month, and GarageBand, if you're on Mac OS, that is also a free application. I used Audacity for a number of years before I made the commitment to dive into Pro Tools, into Logic and Audition. So yeah, I'm familiar with both GarageBand and Audacity. They both are great tools. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. But again, for freeware, it's pretty awesome. All right, so let's wrap this up. The podcast recording equipment is essential for creating a quality podcast. Choosing the right gear for your budget is also key for creating a successful podcast. Entry-level budget equipment is a great way to get started without breaking the bank. I've listed here in the description the microphones that I mentioned, the headphones that I mentioned, the recorders, and the interfaces that I mentioned, as well as links to the software tools for whatever operating system that you're on. This isn't an exhaustive list. This isn't an end-all, be-all list. This is a list of a number of items that I have experience with that I trust is good quality for the price. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. I hope it was valuable and helpful to you as you get your podcast started. And we'll see you in the next section where we talk about kind of the middle tier of the recording equipment.